One thing, we talked about in the beginning of the show, switching gears a little bit is, we'll have maybe not necessarily the founders of brands, but you being the founder of the brand, we can have this discussion. But there are people that I speak with, and not an area I specialize in, but we do work with other partners. Advice you would give to someone that maybe has a business that they've launched that they are thinking of franchising, so essentially becoming a franchisor. Any advice that you would give? Because this is an area where I feel like I'm getting about a call a week. Someone saying, you know what, I got a great concept I want to franchise. Where do we start? How much money do I need? And we don't have to get to those specifics, but do you recommend it? And obviously everyone's situation is different. What kind of advice would you give to someone that's looking to franchise their business?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I had someone reach out recently asking me to take a call with someone that was thinking about franchising their business. And this is really what I told them. So the first thing you need to do is have unit level profitability. So you have to think that if you were to break your business down and show it as a one location franchise, like whatever size territory you want to sell, whether it's the population, number of households, etc., you need to think that whatever that net income is that going to be attractive enough for someone to quit their job and make enough there? So I
Right.
think that's the first thing because it's my advisor Peter Barkman that helped build CertaPro painters. He says it's the head and the heart. Like the heart, they can really get behind it and really want it. But if they can't make enough money, they're never going to be able to get their head to rationalize making the impact. So that's a big one. I would also recommend in that process researching FDDs of comparable businesses that are close to you. So if you're in the painting business, perhaps look at CertaPro Painter, Easy Painting, whatever it may be, take their FTDs. I'd recommend throwing them in ChatGPT and ask the differences between their item 19, their item 6, and their item 7. So you can really see what are the differences, the startup costs, the ongoing costs, and what the profitability of a franchise may be. The second one is I would recommend trying to have as low of startup costs as possible. So, but enough where they can get an SBA loan. So I'm not going to say numbers, but I would recommend looking up what other startup costs are and try to fall in that range so that it's easy for someone to get into, but not so easy that they're not going to care if they bought a franchise. And I think the target is to really try to get them in this model that you're making to cash flow positive as quick as possible. I think the third thing is they should have a unique concept that's repeatable, ideally with some sort of moat where they can't go and do it on their own. They need to see your franchisor and say, I don't want to do it without them. And I'm going to be like way more successful when I do it with them. And the franchise fee and the royalty fully justify the support that you're going to get. And I would recommend there's a book called E-Myth. I think that's a great franchise book to read if you're just starting out. Um, the fourth is I think I would spend a year or two getting those financials to the place where we need to be. I know you may be eager to get going, but if you don't have like a strong item 19, which is your year-to-date
Mhm.
financials, it's not going to be compelling enough for someone to really want to buy a franchise. So it may feel slow at the beginning, but just focus on getting your business as profitably as possible. And I would recommend consulting with a franchise consultant once you do that to build their FTD and operations manual, which is where everything should come from. That should be how you run your business. Those two documents are really critical. I would recommend SMB franchising if you're looking for someone. And I worked with Internicola Law. They were also incredible at getting it going. So I highly recommend those two firms. Um, Next, I would recommend is getting 3 to 5 people that want to become your beta franchisees and just work out the kinks with them. Give them a good deal since they're in the Founders Club. Help them be very successful and just focus all your energy on getting them to the kinds of numbers that you want to show in your FTD. After 1 to 2 years, I would explore organic, paid, and broker channels to help scale up your franchise. I recommend going to the IFA and also Springboard Conference to network and learn a lot. I think other founders and even vendors can be some of your best friends in trying to learn how to franchise well, especially in like your size area, say the 1 to 50 units, but then also getting advice from the people in the 100 to 300 units because they can tell you some of the horror stories of that. One of the classic ones I always hear is like, careful of who your first 10 franchisees are, because they're always like wanting to get rid of them. I'm very fortunate. Mine are incredible. So, but I've heard that's a horror story that people say. And the last one I said is I would get 3 to 5 franchise advisors that have been in franchising for over 10 years, ideally a founder and an operator.
Love that. Wow, that was very detailed. So I actually, while we were talking, right before our conversation, I was like, you know what, maybe we talk about this as well, because it came up recently on a call. I really appreciate the feedback, and that was very thorough, because the people don't know where to start. I was just watching, it was a podcast, or interviewing the president of the IFA, and they were saying that 75% of people that they've interviewed were interested in starting a business. Of that group of people, another 75%, 3/4 of those people never started the business because they didn't know where to start, which I found pretty amazing in this day and age where there's so much information out there. And maybe it's because it's information overload, but
Yeah.
I kind of liked how you had utilized Chat GPT or a Gemini to compare, as you mentioned, maybe FDVs and things like that, and use technology. You're using it at the franchisor level. Why not use it in your research?
Thinking of turning your successful business into a franchise? Serve founder Patrick Brown shares his detailed playbook on the next episode of the Franchise Freedom Podcast.